All right, so welcome to our first virtual Canadian CNCF Meetup of 2023. We probably were in hibernation mode during the winter time as real Canadians, and we decided to start our events in the first day of the spring. So congrats with the first day of the spring, and thanks to everyone for joining. I know some people having vacations for the kids started already, so some of you probably traveling somewhere. So we're not gonna get as maximum people as we are, but like we decided to kick it off and share a couple of exciting news with you. So today, myself, Archie, I'm organizer of this amazing meetup for the last 5 years. I'm an ex-CNCF ambassador, and I'm working at Google. And today with me, we have Marino. Hey, Marino, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Thanks so much for having me again here. I'm excited to be back chatting with y'all about all things Kubernetes and related friends.
This, I think, this part of the, I guess, season and year, it was very difficult for many of us. There was a lot of layoffs in the companies, and it was a hard time. We had a couple of our also co-organizers get affected. So hopefully all of you here, passed all of these events and still, working at your job. But like, if you have anybody who is, kind of get in trouble, please connect with us. We will be happy to help them out to find their next gig. Even though like companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and maybe some other like Twitter laying off people, but like there's a lot of other companies that are growing right now and are looking for specialists. So obviously you can find something for your talents. So hopefully we'll get more host organizers next time, but today just me and Marino. Thanks a lot, Marino, for your time. Quick agenda, we'll have a couple of CNCF announcements. Marino went to CloudnativeSecurityCon, and we're supposed to actually have Christina and Michael as well, who was supposed to be coming, and a few other people from a few other companies. But unfortunately, only Marino was available at the end. So he will be doing a CloudnativeSecurityCon recap. Thanks, Marino. We also having a user talk, basically somebody who went through all the certification, Kubernetes certification exam, Geoff Bruke. He's part of our Canadian community, and he, kindly agreed to share his experience with us. So like, it's not like something material from Linux Foundation. This is really user and user talk. So, and like we want to have this as a discussion as well. If you have any questions, please, drop your messages in the Q&A box. But like we want to have more of those end user talks. We want to make sure like our community itself can present and share the experience. So thanks, Geoff, joining us today as a speaker.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So yeah, this is Geoff. At Tsunami. I'm very interested to learn about this company. I never heard about what you guys do as well when you have your talk. But yeah, thanks for joining us. And we want to have more end user talks in our meetups this year. A couple of housekeeping items. If you want to have your questions, we have Q&A box where you can drop your questions. Please feel free to use the chat. If you want to reach out to us, we have a Kubernetes Slack channel. All the meetups that we're doing virtually recorded to Kubernetes Canada community YouTube channel. We're also trying to be active in our Twitter and LinkedIn. So please follow us and help us to build the community. A couple of cool announcements about sponsors. So it's been a tough year for meetups during the pandemic, and we lost a lot of our sponsors. Some of the companies actually less active these days, but we are really looking for support to organize in-person events. And we are super happy to announce that JFrog signed a sponsorship for Silver hybrid events. So we'll have speakers from JFrog this year. And I think JFrog was one of our oldest and most loyal supporter of this meetup. So thanks a lot, JFrog. We are looking forward to continue working with JFrog. Another great announcement, Microsoft was helping us for many years. This year is not exclusion. They decided to continue supporting us as a gold sponsors. So we're looking forward to have events. This year, Microsoft will be mainly presenting in virtual events rather than in person. And finally, I think we have a really cool announcement. We have SysDig first time as a sponsor. It's been many years we were trying to build this relationship, and thanks to a few of our members like Curtis and a few others who came to our meetups, I think they've seen the value of this community, and they help us to build relationship with SysDig. And for us, we're very excited because we're always looking for cool talks about Falco, about technologies that SysDig is building. So we're very excited to have SysDig as our sponsor. So thank you. And we're looking forward to have events together this year with those companies. If you have anyone who wants to sponsor, there's a barcode, and we, myself or any hosts from our meetup will be happy to connect and to provide more information how we're using this sponsorship and where you can help us. All right, so moving forward, we have a couple of cool CNCF announcements. First of all is Cloud Native KubeCon EU 2023 in Amsterdam. So things are getting closer to the conference itself. So we're looking forward to meet you there as a community. I know it's kind of hard to get approvals these days for the conferences. This year, the pricing, the way you can purchase the conference itself, there's two types of tickets. One is called in-person all access rates. So this one is basically provides you access to the main conference. If you want to attend also the Cloud Native Con, so those are like day zero small conferences around different topics like security or like WASM days or Envoy days. So they used to be like you have to buy those tickets separately. Right now, you just purchase in-person KubeCon plus Cloud Native Con only rates, and you can pretty much go to any talk. And I think this is a great, because sometimes you want to be in 5, 6 events at the same time. Maybe you want to just attend one talk, or maybe you want to meet some person. So this year you can pretty much access all the conferences and meet all sorts of community folks from different areas of Cloud Native. So I think this is great thing. And Linux Foundation and Cloud Native Foundation shared 15% discount with us. Unfortunately, if you still didn't get your ticket, you're going to be buying the late rates, which is pretty high, I think. But you can at least take advantage of this 15% discount code. Marini, you want to add anything about the KubeCon?
Yeah, KubeCon is super exciting because it is in Amsterdam this year, and I'm actually, I'm going to be there. I'm actually heading out there because I have a workshop that got accepted, and I was actually very surprised because it's so competitive to have a talk accepted to any conference, specifically KubeCon even, because there's so much competition, but there are so many brilliant talks out there. The one thing I noticed was there was always a gap with respect to networking and network technologies. And I found that it fit perfectly into, being able to convey how this can help folks that, already work with a lot of different platforms understand networking. And then the other way around, understanding how to use tools like Kubernetes and Docker and the networking behind it through the lens of a network engineer. So I proposed this workshop that I built last year, and surprisingly, we got accepted. So I'm like, nice. So I'll be out there for quite a while because I'm heading out there over early, and I hope to meet people. So if any of you are out there, right, especially over the weekend before KubeCon, let's meet up. Let's grab a coffee, or let's go grab a beer if you want, or if you're into other things too, you're more than welcome to as well. let me know. Let's go hang out. Let's go bike around even. I've got some time there, and I wanted to relax before I actually started presenting. But at the same time, there's something called Application Networking Day that Solo is running. They're running a full day event covering a wide variety of open source networking technologies like Envoy, Istio, Ambient Mesh, blah, blah, blah. And it's a great opportunity just to come out there and just enjoy the day of learning. So if you do register for KubeCon, you would see an option there to register for that event as well. Some of the other things I will mention that you should consider if you're registered for KubeCon, start thinking about the kinds of sessions you're looking out for. Some of the recurring themes that you might start to see are around platform engineering and developer portals. So if you noticed from last year's KubeCon, Backstage was a very, very prominent figure out there. They made a lot of noise, and they're demonstrating that they provide immense value to the cloud native ecosystem for developers. So you may want to catch some of that as well. And you're also going to see a lot of buzz around eBPF is what I imagine. What's interesting is the co-located events have shifted a little bit in that, let's take Istio, for example, or Service Mesh Con. There's no more a Service Mesh Con. It's now called Istio Day. And Istio Day is a half day. So it became extremely competitive to submit talks to that one as well, because apparently there are only 5 slots for talks and then there's a panel. So, quite honestly, you probably would have had better successes to the other co-located events. I submitted to Edge Day. And that's just because edge computing is becoming a thing, is becoming much more prevalent. You're going to see a lot of conversations around that. So it's all I've got to say for now.
Thanks, Nary. Yeah. And I think, honestly, like being a speaker is you getting a free ticket. And also, sometimes they provide a support as well if your company's not supporting. So this is definitely the cheapest way you can get to KubeCon and like to get easily approved. But as Marina mentioned, it's not easy to get accepted. And our talks, like I submitted, I didn't get accepted this time, but that's fine. I'm still hoping to go there and enjoy the community. So I'm also looking forward to meet anyone there at KubeCon. All right, next announcement is Cloud Native Ambassador Program 2.0. So as you probably heard about, like there's a thing called CNCF Ambassador Program. So I used to be a CNCF ambassador, and CNCF decided to shut down this program. And like many people asking me like why they did it, like what's the reason behind closing the ambassador program? Well, the reason was because I think the CNCF is trying to find a better and new formula for CNCF ambassadors. First of all, in the past, there was no process to apply for ambassador. It was more like you kind of been more selected because of your contribution to community, or maybe you're famous, YouTuber about Kubernetes, or you're a top contributor. But there was no like easy way to actually submit, and there was no way to actually retire as an ambassador. So in the past, let's say if your company,
we lost your audio. You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah. In the past, if like let's say you were contributing to CNCF and you decided to switch career and started to work, let's say in a restaurant, like you will be still ambassador, right? So like there was no really way to retire from the program. So CNCF decided like to start from the scratch and let everyone who was ambassador go for, hopefully not for a long time, like away, but obviously right now, like all the ambassadors that we had, over 100 people right now, we technically not ambassadors anymore, but we're hoping that with the D2 program, maybe some of the ambassadors will be reelected, but also this provides an opportunity for new people to join the program and hopefully to bring new energy and change things up. There's like obviously some responsibilities, but like that's the reason you want to become. And also requirements right now are much clearer than before. So you need to be like expert on one of the like 3 areas. One is like you can be an active contributor to CNCF project. There's like a dev stat score minimum number that you need to have for applying it. You can also be part of a SIG or tag. So like CNCF have special interest groups or tags. So like if you're part of this SIG or tag member, you can also be like considered that you can apply. And the final requirement option is actually like what our team, like Marino, myself, and other organizers of this Canadian meetup are doing. We are basically organizing the meetups and events for Cloud Native community. So like if you just are an organizer in one of the cities or want to help us, let's say, you have also possibility to become an ambassador. So if you have any questions like how to like fill out the form, or if you need any help, or maybe if you want to talk about it, like please reach out to me. I'll be happy to support. And then in terms of benefits, I think the biggest benefit you'll get is probably recognition from the community, and you'll be able to have chances to have networking with the fellow ambassadors. We still like all friends, ex-ambassadors. We have our alumni channel where we talk to each other. It really helps you, with anything that you want to do, like maybe speaking at the events or getting accepted, things people are helping and people are reaching out, and like you're learning a lot of things from the other ambassadors as well. For me as an ex-ambassador, like I really, take advantage of the funding and support from the CNCF to organize these events. So hopefully we will have more ambassadors now in Canada one day, and we can continue to get benefits. And obviously we also get a chance to have discounts. So it's not free for me, like going to KubeCon before, it was like 75% discount, but it was like really, really good discount to go to KubeCon. And then finally you can get some swag and so forth. So now how you can apply, there's obviously, you can find if you go to the website today, unfortunately the application has been just closed. It was, I think, at the end of February 26th when the application has been closed, but it's okay, because in July they will reopen the application. What will happen right now, because there was probably a couple of thousands maybe applicants, I don't know how many people actually already submitted the forms, so there will be a review, and there will be probably announcement coming in April 19 during the KubeCon. So there will be announced like who is the new ambassadors for CNCF. So it's going to be very exciting to see who will be selected, and hopefully there will be more Canadians who will be ambassadors as well for CNCF. So that's all I want to cover. If you have any questions, please drop it to Q&A box. I'll be happy to answer those. And then, yeah, now we're going for CloudnativeSecurityCon recap. And unfortunately, I was not able to go to Seattle this time. I was very interested to go. I love Seattle. That's where I went to my first KubeCon. And yeah, like I was really looking forward to go there. Unfortunately, it didn't work out for me, but like at least we had Marino and a few other community members who went there. So Marino, I'll pass the mic to you, and maybe you can share what happened there.
Yeah, thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to share this, Archie. So CloudnativeSecurityCon was, I think, one of the very first phenomenons to come out of KubeCon, because the need arose and came out of this fact that KubeCon is so big, there's so many different domains, and security actually has a massive focus within KubeCon. But it felt like because of all this extra noise that no one really knew how to focus a little bit more, especially since security has been very, very top of mind in the last few years and even this year. So CloudnativeSecurityCon happened in Seattle, and it was a perfect time because the weather wasn't too bad. And quite honestly, the event was, in my opinion, it was good. Like, it was good for a first-time event. There were a lot of attendees. I think from a logistical standpoint and layout, maybe there might have been more optimal spaces to choose. But I think for their timelines and whatnot, it was overall, a great place. It was also centrally located. So, the hotel was literally within walking distance, and pretty much everyone was staying there. From what I understand, there were a few parties that went on. Like, for example, Isovalent had a party at the rooftop of the hotel that most people were staying at. So it's like, boom, you go drop your bag and then you go up to the top floor, there's your party, and then you come back down to your hotel room and you're sleeping. There you go. So it was a fantastic setup altogether. The event and basically the types of talks that you would have seen would have been around things like zero trust, around secure software supply chain, and even traditional areas of security around identity and authorization and even authentication. So a good blend of security talks overall. But one of the recurring themes around this particular event is that you would notice that there's still an increasing need for security, and even security in open source. So it was a call to action to drive more attention, more contributions, more community and collaboration towards a variety of security projects. So if you take a look at the pictures, you can see that, Liz is part of the organizing committee, and there are a few others as well. She gave a great keynote, talking a little bit about eBPF, and she gave a great presentation overall. So it was fantastic. Go check it out. It was all recorded. And then, overall, from an attendee standpoint, I think it was great to network with other security like-minded individuals. But one of the things about me, I'm not a security focused person. My background is networking and Kubernetes. That's my intersection there. And, to have these security conversations was very interesting, because I started to realize how many things I overlook when I, let's say, build sample demos or whatnot. And you start to think that maybe you have to have implied security, like you have to just have it there ready to go versus adding it in after the fact. So I started to realize that there's this concept of security profiling that's going to start to become more and more prevalent in our conversations. Like, make sure that you're detecting and analyzing before you're starting to implement policies. And none of this should be running in production anyways. It should all be sandboxed, so that you can better understand how to form your zero trust posture. So if you want to flip to the next slide, I can tell you that out of this security conference, this new certification came about called the KCSA. So kind of like the KCNA, so more of a security basics and essentials and foundations before you actually get to like the full-blown CKS. Now, the exam covers a lot of security fundamentals around things like RBAC, things like managing secrets, using things like identity and authorization platforms, and even digging into some of the Kubernetes basics, like pod security policies, even though we don't use them anymore. And I think it's a good call out and a good starting point for folks that don't have that security background yet to start jumping into it. So I pasted a link there in the slide. Please head over to it, and it'll give you a more detailed breakdown of the blueprint. I also think that we're going to see more and more of these more fundamental or foundational type associate exams come out. If I had my way, we'd have something like a Kubernetes and cloud networking associate exam, so you can understand some of the basics of Kubernetes networking, and even before that, right, like container networking and networking namespaces. So
how in terms of like how many people were there? Like, looking at the pictures, I just realized that this was exactly the place where the first Kubernetes conference had place. It was 300 people. About, like, when I went there, it was like, amazing just to see those like people like Kelsey Hightower, Joe Beta, like people who were behind Kubernetes. Like, maybe this is going to be the similar, like start where maybe it's a smaller conference in the beginning, but like obviously security is important, right? And like, as you said, like supply chain security is becoming like existential threat for some countries right now. So like, hopefully this is like going to be a good start for it. Like, but like in your assessment, like how many, like a couple of hundreds or hundreds?
Yeah, I would say I would probably put it at around easily over 250. I don't think that they hit their capacity or by any means, and that's just because I think for a first-time conference, right, people are like feeling out whether or not they should be there. And I think coming out of this, next year they do this all over again, they're probably going to be wildly successful. I do think, though, that there are some vendors from a sponsor standpoint that were there that I think were a little out of place. I'm not going to call them out specifically, but it might have been because of where their market presence was previously, and what they're trying to do today. So, and that's just my assessment of it.
Thanks. Like in terms of, I don't know, maybe some trends or like any like good talks that you would recommend to, because like is it everything is good, or like is any
Well,
like
I wish I could have gotten to all the talks, but I'm going to plug my own talk, the what is a zero trust tunnel, and all of this is on YouTube, by the way. And it's really about ambient mesh, but from the lens of how it provides zero trust functionality and security. But there was another great talk from folks within our own community. So Christine and Rob, Christine are one of our organizers, as well as Rob Salmond, who works for Super Orbital. They both co-presented on service mesh versus CNI. And it wasn't like, it was really interesting because they had like over 100 slides, but the flow was fantastic. And they were basically splitting up the entire, conversation, but it was just magical. And why it was magical, not because of how they laid it out, but also because of particular issues that they called out in the realms of Kubernetes security. So there's a particular phenomenon that occurs with a particular set of CNIs, where if you have a pod that comes online, right, it consumes an IP from the pool of IPs, IPAM basically. But one of the challenges is if that pod disappears, should that pod IP be released back into the pool, or should it wait? The answer is it should wait, because if someone else maliciously picks up that IP, it can impersonate the previous pod and basically infiltrate the rest of your application environment. So it was fascinating to see that, because sometimes you never really think about these particular security concerns until you start thinking about tuning your CNIs a little bit more. So it was interesting that he called that out. And then he actually called out the element of the mistaken identity from a service mesh standpoint, and how that could be manipulated as well, especially if you can impersonate a service account. So it's a worthwhile talk to go check out. A lot of the keynotes were great as well. One of the things, there's a few trends I think you should all think about. You're going to see a lot more security tooling coming out of and being built on top of eBPF. You're going to see a lot more of work around open source in that regard. You're also going to see ChainGuard and their whole software supply chain have much, much more momentum. I mean, they were there in full force. I think Dan Lawrence was there. I can't remember, plus a few others, or maybe not. I can't remember. But here's the other thing. So Isovalent was also there in full force. Thomas, Liz, Duffy, they were all there. Even Tracy, their developer advocate. So it was like they really wanted to demonstrate their strength in security from a Cilium and eBPF standpoint. So that's just a further testament to the fact that eBPF is just going to continue to power a lot of our security tooling as well. And the last trend that I'll call out is really the zero trust element. You would see that a lot of the vendors out there, even a lot of the talks, really talked about zero trust from a variety of different lenses, from the lens of authorization, from the lens of networking. And there was a networking talk by Aviatrix, and yeah, it was honestly great stuff.
Thanks, Marina. If you can share those links maybe here or and drop it in a Slack channel, that would be great, so that people can actually.
Yeah, absolutely. So
but I just want to move a little bit forward, just because in the sense of time, and actually this is well connected to what you just talked about, the ChainGuard and security supply chain. We have a couple of meetup announcements coming in March, in-person events. So we're planning to have March 21st CNCF Meetup in Montreal, 22nd in Ottawa, and 23rd in Toronto. We're still finalizing details, because we still have 2 spots available for Montreal and Ottawa as a speaker. So if you're interested to submit a talk, CFP is open. But yeah, we're actually super excited that we found folks from ChainGuard that are coming to our in-person events, and we're hoping to learn more, because we actually never had discussion around Kubernetes security supply chain. We covered many aspects of security, but this is probably first time we're getting somebody from ChainGuard to talk about security supply chain, maybe some talks about Wolfie, a new operating system. So like, yeah, like very excited about this, and we're gonna have event posted shortly once we finalize everything. We're also super excited to host our new speakers or new sponsor. So we're gonna have a talk around Falco. So I'm very excited, and Kurt is actually here on the call. If you wanna, shout out like about your presentation, but like we're very excited to have you over in Toronto, and maybe there will be more folks from your company that will be able to come to Montreal or Ottawa. So we're looking forward to have presentations around Falco, and I like the name as well, like pretty cool. Skateboarding on a runway train, securing apps in a container type. So looking forward for that. So yeah, we're going to be probably dropping the events shortly, and we're looking forward to meet with every one of you. And yes, CFP is open, so like we're still looking for speakers. It's been pretty hard for us actually to find speakers lately from like the Toronto and Montreal areas and Ottawa. So like actually Toronto was very active, but Ottawa and Montreal was a bit hard to find. So hopefully those two cities wake up. We actually just had an event in Quebec City as well, which was really, really well accepted. So it was really a nice event. Unfortunately, Sebastian couldn't join today to talk about it, but like, yeah, we're looking forward to have in-person events every quarter continue, and like virtual events as well will continue as well. And finally, we have one more announcement. So Marino, again, back to you.
Yeah, so I just want to tell you all about Kube Huddle. If you heard about it before, then you probably know this was first run in Edinburgh, Scotland last year in October. And so I spoke with Rockcode, for those that might know him better as Rockcode versus David Flanagan, and I asked him, can we bring this to Toronto? And he was totally on board with it. And so here we are with a community conference that's focused on Kubernetes as the backdrop, but also talks about a lot of different areas around technical strategy and cloud native technologies and the ecosystem, platform engineering, etc. So the CFP is still open for 2 more days. So go check it out if you want to submit a talk. But I also want to make mention of the fact that we have 4 keynote speakers here, and one of them is from Toronto, from Montreal actually, but from Canada-ish. Well, okay, all right, from our area, right? CNCF Canada. That's all that matters to me. But he is delivering a keynote for us, so you don't want to miss this. Tickets are still for sale. Go check it out. Go hit up kubehuddle.com. If you just want to attend, please do come support us, because it's a community event. You're going to hear from great speakers. In fact, what we did was we opened up the CFP in a way that if you go right now, you can see all the submitted talks that are available. They're all publicized, so you can get a sense of the kinds of talks that you might be stepping into. And we do this for a number of reasons. One is to give the audience an idea of what we're expecting. 2, other speakers are inspired to not obviously duplicate or even provide their own perspective. And 3, to help just the general vendors out there understand that, if you want to sponsor, here are some of those really powerful speakers that are probably going to show up. And so our keynoters, Archie, obviously one of them, and then Kunal and Leanne and Kat Cosgrove, we asked them and they graciously decided to say yes and come and support this. So, we have community people that are going to share their community perspectives through keynotes. You don't want to miss this. Thanks, Archie.
Congrats on putting this conference. And I really feel like, not everyone can make it to KubeCon, it's expensive sometimes, right? And, here you are, you have an event in Toronto where, we probably, all our organizers probably going to join as well. If hopefully things going to work out very well, but I think this is kind of mini KubeCon in Canada, in Toronto. So tickets are really, really, I think, affordable. So I think it's affordable for everyone to join. And yeah, I'm looking forward for that conference. I'm very excited as well. Thanks for inviting to speak. And obviously I will be there, want to meet everyone there as well. Super happy about it.
Awesome.
All right. Okay. Finally, we're getting to our speaker. Sorry, Geoff. I think you're not expecting that we're going to do so much speaking, but like I feel like a lot of people actually very interested to do certification, and maybe some of our members already have certifications, and they can share extra information on top of what you provide. So please post your secret ways of preparing for the certification. But Geoff said, like, I want to share my own journey, how to get from the zero to hero, and obviously, like, maybe before you're even gonna start about like why you think, like, why you did so many certificates, like are you like certificate maniac, or are you just like?
I mean, so one thing was, if people haven't forgotten, we had like COVID 3-year lockdown, and there was nothing to do. And so I kind of wish that when I was in university, there had been a pandemic, because maybe my career would have been a lot better, because I would have been forced to study instead of going out and partying all the time. But joking aside, that definitely was a factor, because you can't go to the restaurant, you can't go to the cinema. So what do? Well, study Kubernetes, right? It's fun. But also, to be honest and talk about that, I found Kubernetes very challenging. And I felt that for me to be able to really think that I at least understand something and not have this huge imposter syndrome on top of me, the certifications at least would make me feel a bit more confident. And awesome. It might make my boss pay me more money too. I mean, that also, you never know.
That's, I think, one of the reasons, right? And I think the Kubernetes certificate are very well known in the industry today, and I think it's like one of the top certificates. I don't know if people can share any other cool certificates. Obviously, those are like big cloud provider certificates, also pretty like hot right now. But like I think Kubernetes, having a Kubernetes certificate under your belt, and any of them actually, will be super helpful. And now we have even more choices, right? So like maybe we can learn a little bit more which one to choose when, and then if you have any pro tips or anything that you want to share, we're looking forward to learn about it. So Geoff,
okay,
to you.
I'll share my screen. Oh, it's not letting me share my screen. One second. Oh, there we go. Okay, righty. Yeah. So hi everybody. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that great empty screen? I'm not a certified Microsoft PowerPoint specialist. How's that? One certification I did not get. So hi everybody, my name is Geoff Bruke. I'm a senior cloud solutions architect at Sonati. Sonati is basically a company that deals with data protection, a lot of virtualization data protection, but now more towards Kubernetes data protection as well. So I'm also, I've got a number of ambassadorships. I'm a Veeam Vanguard, Veeam Legend. I won't go through them all. My ego might get big. But importantly, in this context, Calico Big Cat, I really like. It's a CNI. And recently I became a Code Cloud ambassador. And that I'm really pleased about. And I'll talk about as well, because that helped me significantly with my exams. Okay, and there's a nice little photo there of the exams and all their little emblems, which, by the way, can be a nuisance, because you notice the CKS and the KCNA are bigger than the other ones. And so when you're trying to put this on your like resume or something, that it kind of messes it up. But that's a side note. Okay, so I'm going to talk about my starting point, not just because I think it's interesting, but I think that a lot of people, since Kubernetes is new, are in similar positions. Where are they starting from? And that's very important, because depending on where you're starting from, that's going to affect how you prepare for the exams and which exams you take. With me, I was working for a big, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Canadian service provider for backup and data protection. And but before that, sorry, I jumped ahead. Linux experience, very important. So I've had Linux experience since 1998. And the reason I underline this, because I see some real parallels between Linux and Kubernetes in the actual experience. And let me explain why. When I started Linux, I went out, got a little Red Hat book and had a little CD-ROM, and I came home, and being used to Windows, it was next. I installed Linux, and then I went through 4 days of hell to get my modem to work, right? Because it was a Win modem, it turns out, and then the Wi-Fi, I needed WA supplicant. So it was extremely frustrating. I was going to throw it out every single day, and I kept coming back. But what happens? After these experiences, when it finally worked, I jumped for joy, and I never did that when I just, pressed setup X, next. But also I had a much deeper understanding of the technology. So that's like my Kubernetes experience now is like a flashback of back then, because it's very similar. There's some frustrations, whatever, and then it works and you jump for joy. But you also get a real deep understanding. And this is important when it comes towards the certifications. Okay. I did a little bit of FreeBSD with jail, which is also kind of a segregation technology. I played around with LXC, which is another form of containerization Linux, but doesn't have orchestration as far as I know. But overall, my bread and butter was Windows systems because they broke more often, right? So we need to make money. Guess what? Windows is always breaking. So unfortunately, I liked Linux a little bit better, but I was forced to constantly work in Windows until Linux became more mainstream in enterprise. Okay, so that's my background. So I wasn't totally oblivious to Linux and command line, but I wasn't working with it every day. So what happened? And this is always an interesting question I ask people who are doing Kubernetes now, if they're not developers, because developers kind of fell into Kubernetes automatically. It's someone opened a trap door and they all fall in. But everybody else, like operations people, have different little paths. And for me, basically Veeam, which is a company I work with a lot for data protection, introduced object store, so a capacity tier of object storage, S3, okay? And this was really good because service providers can save a lot of money because from your repository, you can offload data to a cheaper S3. So that's important too, because when you say what's driving a technology, well, money is driving the technology. My previous employers that I worked for couldn't care less about object. They didn't even know what it was until someone said, guess what? It's going to be cheaper, more efficient. Boom, Geoff, you're on it, okay? So another thing to keep in mind. So what did we do? We looked around and I finally decided, well, let me try this MinIO because it had documentation, which was quick and easy. And I set it up. And we even, because we're so big, we actually talked to MinIO directly. And they said, if you want to do it multi-tenancy, then you should leverage containers with orchestration, okay? Now, I knew about containers a bit. Orchestration, I go to the symphony for that. So it was new, whatever. But, being 20 years in IT, I've been around for a long time and had a little bit too much hubris. I thought, okay, no problems. They said Kubernetes is the best choice. So I thought I'll go home Friday night, read over the weekend, and Monday I'll bring up Kubernetes at the workplace, right? Right. Wrong. I realized very quickly that this was a very deep experience. There was no way to wing it. And I repeat that to a lot of vSphere administrators and people in other technologies who are very experienced and very smart, a lot smarter than me. But I say you cannot wing this. This is a technology that you really have to study, and your previous experience will help somewhat, but you cannot rely on it. And that's especially true of the exams. Okay, so what did I do? I installed Docker Swarm. Okay, so, well, okay, yeah, because someone said it's easier. Okay, and it was easier. Fine. However, it was easier, but less flexible. At least that was my impression being a systems engineer. Sure, it was fast. I got it up. But then I started looking at this overlay network right away. I don't deal with any CNI or any of this stuff. But the flexibility is where the real gist is of it all. That if you really enjoy building things and sculpting things. And of course, for a business, it's important that you can sculpt or build something which will be more efficient. Okay. So I was intrigued by Kubernetes and decided no matter what, I'm going to learn this new technology. So this is where the exams come in. Now, I'd heard rumors the exams were tough, and that got me even more intrigued. So I'll discuss right now the exams, what they are, and then I'll go through each one and kind of my perceptions of what happens. And I failed the first one, so there you go. So the first one is a new exam. It's the KCNA, and it's an entrance certification. And Marino mentioned this, and they're bringing in, he kind of stole a piece of my presentation because I was talking about the KCNA coming in, KCSA. So this is a entrance certification, and I'll talk about that in a bit. It was very much needed because, as one person told me, the CKA exam was like telling people to learn parachuting, and you go up in the plane, they give you the parachute, they push you out, and you're struggling to find the cord to pull the parachute, right? That's what the experience was like for a lot of people. I know people who failed that exam 3 times. Okay, next exam is the CKAD. Now, this one is really weird. When I saw this, I said, I'm not going near it, okay? I can't even get the code for my refrigerator to work properly, right? So I don't do much coding. And when I saw application developer, I thought, whoa, new profession. That is not the case, though. It's a little bit misleading. It's not really, you have to go and code and develop an application. I'll talk about that in a second. Then there's the CKA, and this is the best known. It's the creme de la creme in the container world. And I say that not joking because in my former organization, there was a superstar, and every organization has one. This is a super genius. He was a vSphere. He is still a vSphere. Anything's broken, he fixes it. And he used to walk around. Well, it was COVID, so he didn't. But, on the calls, he'd never pay attention to me. Geoff, yeah, data protection, yeah, whatever. And then I just very calmly on the chat one day said, hey, guys, by the way, I passed the CKA. Whoa, this person actually talked to me. I was like, wow. And then I realized this is a respected exam, okay? If Superman up there decides to come down to my level, something must be right. I didn't tell him I failed it the first time, though, just in case, Okay, and last but not least is the CKS Security Specialist, and this is a newer exam. This exam came out in November 2021. So I was lucky or unlucky. When I did the CKA, it was still a 3-hour exam, and there was no CKS. So I think there was more security in it. So perhaps it was tougher. I don't know. I have to renew my CKA this year, so I'll find out. But this was an exam which was very much needed, similar to what Marino said. Security is becoming more important. When Kubernetes was built, they didn't build it thinking security. They didn't build it thinking a lot of things. They just built it to do one task. And what they're expecting is things like CNI and CSI to come in for container storage interface. And security also is really something that's got to be added on in a lot of cases. If you just put out a default Kubernetes out there, you're going to have a Tesla hack. I don't know if you've heard about that. That's when they open their dashboard to the world. So I hope they don't do that at Twitter. I mean, they might be right now by the looks of it. But anyways, okay, so let's talk about the KCNA. As I said, it's an entrance exam. Now, I'd already done the CKA, and you say, well, Geoff, I mean, you're even crazy. You got tons of money. Why'd you do this? Well, no, I was at KubeCon in LA, and I don't know where it was advertised. I said, hey, you want to be a beta tester? I thought, no. And they said, it's free. I went, yes. And so, I was a beta tester for it. The only bad thing, if you're a beta tester, you get all the questions. Okay. It's not like, no, you get your 60. No, you get all of them. And that was a bit of a shock. But I'd already done the CK before that. So this, I hoped would be easy. It's multiple choice, unlike the other exams. Very important to point out. And it's proctored. And when I say proctored, I'll quickly I'm going to speed this up time-wise, but you have to be ready for that in your exam experience, because it's a pain in the neck. You've got to have your webcam, and you put it on your desk and all over the place. And the first time that happened to me, I was getting so angry at this guy. You'd see him typing. He would say typing like in the chat, and it wouldn't answer. Like, I'm not going to get my exam. So be ready for that. Okay, there are plenty of good resources on the internet, free resources. So you don't necessarily have to get a course. A lot more people take this, and I've seen a lot of stuff out there, GitHub repos and whatnot. And CodeCloud has a DevOps learning path if you really want a course, which would take you from zero to hero kind of thing. Considerations. Well, cost. Do you really need this exam? If you've done the CKA, probably not. If you're a salesperson who doesn't know anything about Kubernetes and wants to start selling it, yeah, it's a good idea. As far as difficulty, it's not easy. I had no preparation for it because it was a beta. And there were some areas like the areas that talk about the CNCF and what it does and whatnot. And I go to the conferences, but I don't read any of the brochures really. Well, I do, but no, I don't memorize them. So be ready. With these exams, go through the curriculum. It's very important. Don't ignore them. Okay. Side note, Marino and I talked about this. The KCSA is being introduced in Q3. It'll be like a KCNA but security. Okay, the SCAD, as you call it, proctored, performance-based. What does that mean, performance-based? Well, it's really important. It means you get a command line and you get a problem. And that is tough. I'll talk about strategies quickly in a bit, but you have to keep in mind it's a very different experience if you've never done performance exams. Okay, people claim to me that this was easier in the CKA. I didn't find that at all. I found it was different. It wasn't easier. It's basically the applications, how you do deployments, things like that. It's all related to if you are going to put your applications in Kubernetes, how do you do it? Again, the curriculum will tell you all the steps, but don't take this one lightly. With all these exams that are performance-based, knowing the material is not enough. It's not enough, okay? You have to get the skills. You have to type fast. You have to learn not to make typos, things like that. So keep that in mind. You can't just memorize. Time management and question weight is very important for all these exams in the sense that the questions have different weights. And if you get stuck on one, it's weight of 2, drop it. Go forward, do the weight 7 one. Then if you have time, come back. Very important. They are emulating real-life disasters and problems in these exams. So you have limited time. You get your boss screaming, fix it now. And you have to decide logically what's important for me to do right at this point in time. Okay, the CKA. I did this when it was 3 hours. I said again before, I failed it the first time. And you don't fail right away. So, normally a multiple choice exam, you get the thing, you feel bad, you go to the bar and you relax. No, here you wait for like 2 days or a day and and then the email comes. The email says either congratulations or something else because you start reading, you throw it out. So I failed the first time. I thought I'd never do this again. I'm sick of all this. And then 2 days later, I re-signed up for an exam a month later. That's how crazy I was. So also, and again, this applies for all the exams, know the documentation. Know where things are in the documentation. Don't just take a course and not do the documentation. Okay, it's very important to learn documentation. Since the introduction of CKS, there's less security in this exam. That's what people have told me. So it's 2 hours now instead of 3 hours. And the CK is a prerequisite for the CKS. You can't just go do the CKS. You have to do the CK first. Important to keep in mind. Okay, the CKS. It's only valid for 2 years. All right, so you're doing this often, probably because security is always changing. Some people say it's the hardest. I didn't find that. After the CKA, doing the CKA twice, I kind of, the things that were really rough for me, I kind of figured out. So, it was not easy, but it wasn't as terrifying as the first time for CKA. Okay, unlike the CKA, for the CKS, you have to know some third-party tools. So Falco, a bit of swag I got on discount at KubeCon. Falco here. You have to know some Falco, Trivi. That can change, so check the curriculum. But they allow you into the documentation of those third-party tools. Nevertheless, keep in mind you have to learn them. So there they are, Falco, Trivi, AppArmor. Okay, so tips. Let's talk about tips. I can't tell you, like, the questions, I don't remember them for one thing, but I'd lose all my notifications if I did that. Self-assessment is very important. So a self-assessment, again, where you're coming from, what's your background, what do you know, where do you assess yourself being right now? That's why what is critical if you decide to take courses, which I think is probably a good idea, is do courses that have really good practice exams, okay? And I personally, Code Cloud for me was the best because they have practice tests that are very similar to the exam, but Killer Shell, which is given to you with the exam, are excellent. But keep in mind, they're not called Killer Shell just like that because they're going to kill your ego. I found those Killer Shell practice exams, especially the CKS, 10 times harder than the exam. And so when I did the Killer Shell practice exam, I thought, that's it. I'm not going to go to this exam. I'm going to lose it. But in fact, it was harder. So you get 2 free ones with that. You can buy more. It's only one, though. And again, doesn't matter what company you buy a course from. If it's just a course where someone's talking, I'd avoid that. You need to have practice tests to get used to typing fast, aliases, how to quickly find documentation, pasting YAML, very important. When I first did the exam, I'd paste the YAML in, and guess what? It went all over the place, right? And YAML doesn't like that. YAML has this indentation stuff. I mean, as developers, you probably all know this. For me, it was not fun. I spent like 20 minutes trying to get this YAML happy. So very important for that as well. Set up your own practice environment. Very important. Don't just go to a course. Play with it. Have fun. Kubernetes is fun, okay? It's stuff you can do on Kubernetes you can't do with virtual machines or physical machines. You can't have like 15 physical machines in your basement. So practice and have fun. And there is a link here to Canada's CNCF. They have some tools here. So here's a link. You'll get this, by the way, after the talk. I would go there and practice there if you can. And here's even a scan me thingy. You can do that. Again, you'll get this presentation. Read through the documentation, but do the tasks. The Kubernetes official documentation has tasks. Some might seem really easy, but again, it needs to be in muscle memory. So you do these tasks over and over again, they become quick, boom. Okay, so do those. Commands must be in muscle memory. So you can't be sitting there going, kubectl. You can look things up, use kubectl help, of course, but you've got to be quick. Practice taking YAML files from documentation and knowing where those YAML files are. So if you do mtdir quite often, remember, mtdir is in this part of documentation. Get there quickly, copy and paste, and then change it for my what I'm doing. Memorize locations of these YAML files. Very important. The first exam I did, I was looking through the search, and I was nervous, and I was finding things that I didn't need, and I got more nervous, and hence I failed. And don't forget kubectl or kubectl -- help. Last resort, that'll help you. You'll find the command. In fact, there's some examples you can take from there. So I would highly do that as well. Okay. Gift from Code Cloud, since I'm a Code Cloud and Get ambassador. I told them I was coming to the Canadian CNCF. They love Canada. So they said, guess what? We'll give you a month free. Okay. It's the standard monthly plan. So you can tell your boss, I'm going on vacation for a month. You don't sleep for a month. You can probably get through all the courses, right? And for free. So go ahead and do that. The code's there. It's 30 days free access. Again, they've got the PCA course there, which is the Prometheus new exam. CK, CKS, CKD. For the KCNA, I don't think they have a particular course. I might be wrong there, but they do have a DevOps path, right? As I said, 30 days, just don't go to work. Get sick for a month, and you can go through the whole thing. They also have, because I'll also say that these exams are not cheap, right? Don't necessarily buy them at full price. I have never paid full price for an exam because I found discounts. There's a Black Friday discount. It's really good. But then afterwards, if you buy a lot of exams, you start getting like 50% off, and they send you a hat. See, I got a hat too. But you don't have to pay full price. So, because that is a problem. And you see $400 American in Canada, you know, when I see American, I always have to plus whatever it is, and it becomes very expensive. I have no beer money left. Okay, there's also a CKS challenge at CodeCloud, which you can win a free voucher for the CKS exam. Okay, here are the instructions. Again, if you can get it for free, get it. If you can become a beta tester, do it. But I would highly recommend that. Okay, we have like 2 minutes left for some questions and answers. Sorry, I rushed it. I was going as fast as I could.
Amazing, Geoff. Thanks a lot. I think it was very helpful, and I really like the storytelling part of how things were building up. It looks like a Kubernetes history in some sense as well. Like many people went for that, but yeah, like I think it was great. Thanks for mentioning about CodeCloud. I was actually want to ask you about the exam that you didn't mention is Prometheus certification, which is, like our talk is about Kubernetes, but I think I see the new trend here that CNCF is now building certification not only for Kubernetes, but for CNCF projects. And like I think this is great because, you know, like I personally feel Prometheus is more complicated than Kubernetes because the way it's built and the way things are, you know, happening in this community, the Prometheus is very hard. And I will be very interested to hear if somebody share the tips from passing the PCA exam, like Prometheus certification. So, you know, very interested to learn. But I think the fact that CodeCloud put already a course about it, I think, you know, you can use your voucher for whatever 1 month and try it out. I personally don't like to watch a lot of videos, and I agree with you. I would rather go to do the exam dry runs because, like, I think if you come into our meetups, you probably learn most of the Kubernetes already. But like, obviously, like you want to do hands-on as much as you can. And yeah, like I think for the folks who are preparing, we also happy to help you out in the Slack channel. If you have any questions, we have people happy to help out and answer your questions. So let's check it out. We have a couple of questions in the Q&A box. Okay. We actually have a question from Marina. How do you balance being an ambassador for so many programs? You muted, Geoff.
Yeah, that's difficult, I must admit, because I think I kind of got interested in everything. What I tend to do is when I like a software or a program, I want to get more involved with it. I mean, you get free training sometimes and swag, but also you meet experts from the company, which is really helpful because you know yourself, this can be complicated. So I'm trying to balance it. Going forward, I might have to review some things though, because it is becoming a bit stressful. I mean, I like Kubernetes, but you know, weekends, evenings, and whatnot, and so. But we'll see. It's fun for now, you know. But now that COVID's over with, see, there's more things to do, so I have to be careful.
Yeah, we have another question from Ashley. To what extent does the CKA go into operators, CNI, and service mesh? You muted again. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. So which one?
So how far CKA goes into operators, CNI, and service mesh?
Not so. From what I remember, because it was 3 years ago, not super deep into CNI. I mean, so you have to know network policies, but that also got switched over, I think, to CKS. If you follow the curriculum and you follow a course, you'll know for certain. Because remember, it does change. It's not stagnant, right? So you would have to know more than just what a CNI is, put it that way. You'll have to actually apply network policies, whether that's in the CKS or the CKA, I don't remember. It could even be in the SCAD, to be honest, because that's more of on the application side. But you have to basically be able to use the technology, put it that way.
Yeah, and I think like for the operator part, obviously you're not gonna you don't have to write your own operators. This is not going to happen.
Oh, no. Yeah. There's no coding. Put it that way. You don't have to they're not going to kill you on that. So.
But like operator, at the end of the day, it's just Kubernetes manifest, right?
Exactly.
So YAML manifest when you apply it, and yeah. So, but like, I don't think you really need to know deep into that area.
No, not at all. Yeah. Listen, folks, I actually have an engagement I have to run to. It was at 1 o'clock. My boss put it on me. He'd forgotten I had this. So I'm saying,
no worries.
Gotta go or I'll get fired. I won't need certifications. But thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please continue to ask and I can answer them, in email.
Okay. One more is basically, are we allowed to use ZSH or my ZSH during exam? And I think the answer is no, right? Because it's a proctored exam there.
Oh, yeah.
You have to get used to their shell. That's one of the, I think, pains of this exam, that the shell itself and like all the experience.
And it's changed too. When I did it, it was different, and they had no autocomplete too, so you had to create that yourself and aliases. It was now they've got a different shell. I haven't heard anything about that's better or not. I'm going to find out because I've signed up for the PCA. We'll see if I get time to study for it, but I'll find out. But
thanks, Geoff.
Thank you very much, guys.
Appreciate your time. And yeah, thanks for sharing. For folks who are still here, just please make sure fill up the post-event survey, help us to improve our events. And we're looking forward to meet you for in-person meetups in March 21st in Montreal, 22nd in Ottawa, and 23rd in Toronto. So thanks for joining during the lunchtime, and we're looking forward to chatting with you very soon. And please scan the barcode and fill up the survey if you can, just to have an understanding where we are. And we're really looking to continue with the events in the new year, but we're always looking for help and support from community. And your CFPs would be great. We're always looking for venues, and just in general, like we're looking forward to see you at the events as well. So we're looking forward to connect very soon. Thanks a lot, and enjoy your rest of the day.